Now, I also want to share with you in the same study that this doctor, pediatrician and neurologist has done, she found, they did imaging, scanning of the brain. When any child chants any name of God, you can say Allah, you can say Salam, Shalom, Hail Mary, Om, any name. Immediately there is an activity of growth in the frontal cortex of your brain. So there's a scanning, an image shows taking the name of God actually wires your brain and activates it. That is why whatever be the faith of your choice, your birth, within the family it's important. If you are Christians, make sure at least once a week the child goes to the church. If you are Muslims, get the child habituated to praying and let the child watch at least his mother and father being very grateful and offering namaz. The child will say, oh, this is what is the right way to do. My mother and father are so loving, how nicely they bow before the Lord, the Almighty. If you're Hindus, if you do some pujas, make sure your child also participates. When you're doing your prayers, your namaz, your puja, that's not the time for child to go and play outside. Involve them, make it child friendly. Now also, the way we communicate. You know, if you are like me who has older children, I have a 14-year-old and a 24-year-old, when I look back, I feel there were many things I could have done better or differently. That's why I share today with you. Sometimes we get very upset with our children, we lay the rules and we say, you know, this is the end of the world, you violated. So based on my mistakes, I'm sharing this with you. The tone, the tenor of our voice when we talk to our children is very important. Children are like a mirror. Whatever we give them, they will reflect, resound and react back. If I shout at my teenager, he shouts back at me. If I talk to him calmly and explain why I feel unhappy with his behavior, not with him, but the way he acted, there's a difference. I'm upset with the way you did something. I can't say I'm mad at you because you're such a rotten bad boy. No, that just completely demoralizes the child and shatters them. We have to differentiate between the child and his or her behavior, and the tone and tenor of our communication is very important. Our founder of SSC says sound is energy, and so does basic physics. I want to share with you a story of a Danish king, I think it was the 17th or 18th century. He was a great philosopher and a student of linguistics. He loved ancient languages, he loved Greek, all the classics. He loved Sanskrit, Latin. So he had this question: what is the natural and original language of humanity? A child is born in an English-speaking household will end up speaking English. You're born in an Arabic-speaking, you will speak Arabic. You're born in Tamil or Malayalam, you know, you'll just pick up your environment. So what he did, he got 17 newborn orphans from an orphanage, and he hired the best nurses, and he said, this is what I want you to do with these children. Take perfect care of them. Clean them, wash them, feed them, rock them, burp them. That's what you have to do to children. But nobody speaks a word. Pin drop silence, zip and lock your mouth. Don't speak to each other in the presence of the children. I just want to see as they grow, how will they communicate? What language will come? That is the original language of humanity, and I want that recorded. And he was keenly watching this experiment. Can anyone guess what the outcome of this experiment was? Sorry? Nobody talked? Instead, one by one, all 17 children died. Because the child needs the loving energy of a parent's communication. If you can give the child food, you can change their diaper, you can burp them, you can rock them, you can give them the best bath and the most nutritious formula. But if you don't talk to them and make that baby language and look up your baby in the eye and go kuchi kuchi with them and say, you know how much I love you, and pull their nose and nuzzle with them and speak in whatever language you like, baby language, gibberish or your mother tongue, that is all part of nurturing that child's soul. So vak or shabd or voice or words, they are energy. And you as parents have the power to break a child's heart or make it whole. Choice of words and tone of speech is extremely important. Sometimes we are under so much pressure at our work, migrant societies, you have families to sponsor back home in your hometown, constantly send money, please people, keep up with your friends here, keep your boss happy. In the anxiety and stress, when kids come and irritate you, mom, dad, I really want this, you have to listen to. You say, stop it and don't irritate me, don't you know how tired I am? That's when we snap and we lose it. And every time we say no to the child, he or she takes it as a personal rejection. So when we chose to become parents, we signed a clause, we have to learn patience. Nobody can be an impatient parent. And I think that's just part of our evolution. When we take that journey as human beings that we are going to be parenting, we have signed a covenant with God that thank you for sending your representatives to me, so now is my time to learn how to be more patient. The other time that modern families are really lacking in, apart, is family time, because we are so rushed. And everybody comes in, quickly grabs a bite and gets on to the next thing. So I think it's extremely important as a family to set a time when everybody sits down together, whether it's at a meal time, whether the child has already eaten, as a formality, just invite them, come spend time with us, we'd like to know how your day went. Let's find out how daddy's day went. Let's find out what mom did all day. Because many people assume that stay-at-moms do nothing, which is the biggest myth, because that's why I don't like to stay home. You end up working all day. The house will keep calling you. When you're done with the kitchen, you say, oh, this cupboard is dirty. And when you're done with that, you realize something else needs to be done. I think housework is the most unappreciated, unpaid work in the world. And a woman who stays at home is constantly working. So, it's nice if all family members do a little bit of sharing and talking at the kitchen table and eat together. Because you know what they say, a family that eats together, prays together, stays together. And that really is true. It's because times are such that, everybody rushes in between this class, I have to go to my next class, grab a bite. So there has to be some sacred family time, whether it's half hour, 45 minutes, when people sit together and they communicate. And you have very small children and they have such innocence and creativity. So it's extremely important to listen to their childish blabber, because God speaks through the voice of babes. Because they're not conditioned like us. They don't have psychological, social pressures. So, as parents, we tend to be very good talkers, but communication is a two-way stream. That's why we have one mouth and two ears. So it's very important to get them to talk and listen. Just when you make eye contact with the child, don't be doing something, and then what happened, and checking your phone for messages. Yeah, I'm listening, and then you're still checking your emails. No, give the child undivided attention, making eye contact with them, and giving them your 100%, even if it's for 10 to 15 minutes. And super busy dads can always volunteer to do one activity, such as give them a bedtime bath and tuck them into bed, or whatever, one little activity at the end of the day. So the child knows that this is my special time, because I spend so much time with my mom. With my dad, once daddy comes from office, he's had his shower, he's eaten his dinner, dad and I get to either play together, talk together, or maybe just go and brush my teeth and wash up with daddy, and then daddy reads me a bedtime story and daddy says a prayer with me and daddy tucks me. And that will really go a very long way to make your child feel that living a life based on the 5 human values is not a pretend game I play for 3 hours in my nursery school. That's the way to live, just a way of life. That's what it is. And more than the next expensive doll or gizmo or toy you buy for your child, give them your time. I find affluent societies' parents compensate for lack of parenting by giving them money, and especially when they're teenagers and they say, all my friends are going to the movies, and so I say, okay darling, here's $20, you go and also catch up and get her off my back, okay. The most valuable thing we can give our children is not the money, is not the bank balance, is our time. Eye contact, complete attention, good listening. These are small things, they make a huge difference. By the time the same child is a teenager, he or she will be less troublesome, I promise you. And even if they become, everybody goes through their own process. The same child will have a different attitude as a teenager, but the same child, when he's tempted by choices which can be good or bad, the seeds you have planted at the nursery will always influence his or her judgment. So where there is peer pressure and there is temptation, and the child will want to do things which are not so great for him or her, but when you have taught him that within you is a moral compass, you don't need somebody else to tell you, go within, automatically. He's already programmed, the neuron pathways are already laid, the circuitry is in place. So what better gift can you give your child than a household that practices what the school teaches him? You've given him a full skill set to be a great decision maker. And you'll be so proud of your children, and when you look back, maybe about 18 to 20 years from now, people will say, how did you raise such an amazing kid? And then you will know it's a lifetime of work. You just make it a way of life. Parents cannot be shouting, fighting and disagreeing in front of children because it really shatters them. So if we have spousal bonding is a big subject under parenting, and if we have issues and differences of opinion, those are to be sorted like adults without raising voice in the absence of children, and hopefully resolved so that we can have more domestic peace, because that's the whole idea of having a family. Baba says that when a child is between the ages of 0 to 5, we should smother them with unconditional love. But from the age of 5 to about 13 is when, from 6 to 13 is when discipline has to be brought in a gradual manner, with clear do's and don'ts, boundaries to be laid, consequences to be spelled out, that if the children overstep the boundaries, what the consequences will be. And from 14 onwards, the mother should become the best friend of the daughter, and the father should become the best friend of the son, so that they will feel free to confide in us and tell us of their problems, because children face a lot of pressure today that you and I did not face when we were growing up. So we have to be understanding and empathetic to their situation. And for that, we have to have, if your child just blocks you and doesn't share with you and goes to his friends or constantly chats with strangers on Facebook to get his or her share of venting, then we are failing as parents. So to create that bond of communication, we have to follow these 3 steps. Smother them with unconditional love and doting till the age of 5. 6 to 13, start laying the ground rules, clearly defined boundaries. Clearly defined consequences for overstepping the boundaries. Once they turn 14 and teenagers, become their friend. And it's okay. Your daughter and your son is not going to dress and behave the way you did. Be open-minded, but define. Okay, you want to wear clothes I did not wear? Here are the rules. Regarding hemlines, necklines and sleeves. Everything else is your choice. It's okay. Every teenage girl is not going to go to a party or with her friends to the mall wearing a salwar kameez with a nice dupatta. So that's fine too. But she can wear what she wants. I have only defined my hemline, neckline and sleeve. That's it. So, and say, the rest is your choice. Make them feel involved in decision making that empowers children. And every now and then when they really want to test your limits and say, but so-and-so's mom gave them full freedom to do whatever they like, and their parents are so, and tell them, what, I'm so proud of your friend and her mom, but it is between you and what you think will please Allah, Jesus, God, Swami, whatever. You have your own judgment, and I think you're very wise, and I trust you to make a wise decision. Why don't I leave it to you? Empower the child, give them responsibility, they are forced to grow up. It works, trust me. The one last thought I want to leave with you is that we have to recognize every child is unique, and every child is not going to be an Einstein. And the worst thing we can do as Asian parents is to compare them to another child. So God gave you that one gift. That gift is suited, and it is based on the DNA of your home, your family, the husband, parents, mom and dad. So that unique gift has to be celebrated, not put down not smothered, not criticized and condemned constantly and say, see, so-and-so's child does this and this, and he's got first in karate and Bharatanatyam and tabla and this, and look at you, you're such a lazy bum. Never. That's the worst thing we can do to ruin a child's self-esteem right in the beginning. Celebrate the uniqueness. Thank God that He blessed you with a beautiful daughter or a son. Don't forget the couples who are praying somewhere in some temple, some mosque, some church, in some fertility clinic, hoping that they too will be blessed with a child one day. So now that God has chosen you to be parents, it's a huge responsibility, and I think you've already taken the first step, for which I congratulate you for making such a fine, superb choice of a school. But please don't let the values program end at the school at 12 noon. Please extend it into your homes and families, and you will realize that it benefits the whole family atmosphere. I will just, one last story I want to share, I'll take 2 minutes. When I was doing the dynamic value program, we used to have to sit in circle and share. So everybody has to share, and if you don't want to share, you have to say pass. So in my group, there was one gentleman, and his name is Mr. Rasia, and he came alone. You have to, because the wife had to stay at home because they had a child with severe, one of the children, daughter, who was perfectly healthy, actually, although she had some immunity issues, she studied with us. But this little girl's older brother was severely disabled. Extremely. He had hearing aid, thick glasses, all his limbs were in a very bad shape, deformed, and he was in a wheelchair, and he couldn't speak. So this child had to be looked after 24/7, and that's what the mother did. So only the father came to our class, in which my husband and I were also participating. 16 weeks, he never spoke a word, he never shared, he looked extremely morose, but he attended all classes, so they had to give him a certificate. Then when we finished, we have a day for graduation. In the graduation party, he didn't come, the wife came. Because we have to share the impact of the program. That's the first time the wife came. And she was a very humble, simple lady. Her English was not fluent, but she took the mic and she said, I've never in my life spoken like this in front of a microphone, but I have to speak that this program is phenomenal. And she said that she never attended it, but she saw its impact. She said the boy was in his early 20s, and for the last 2 decades and more since he was born, because they had some congenital health issue, that these children could not be given any immunization shots. The moment they were given, they would get sick. 2 or 3 children had passed away, and the 3rd child was the boy in the wheelchair. Because they gave him we give children immunization at birth. She said, since this child was born, I have done nothing but stayed in the house, cook, clean, and look after this child. And my husband has gone into such a depression. He's a highly qualified accountant from Sri Lanka, but he drives a taxi now. And God has given us enough wealth. But there's so much sadness in our family that nobody really talks to nobody. We just sort of do the basic, have your meals, where is this, pay that bill, no communication. She said, and my husband is so saddened by the son's situation, who's completely, crumpled and bent over in this, and he always goes, some sort of he can't, poor thing, speak. That, his name was Sanjeev, I think. She said that he feels so sad that he doesn't even go near him, because it just breaks his heart. So I have been taking care of this child single-handedly for 20 odd years. After my husband started attending this 16 weeks ago, your classes, I don't know what you taught him, he came back, and for the first time he entered the child's room. And the child was so happy, he can't speak, he's trying to fall over in his wheelchair because his appa came into his room. Can you imagine that? And after that, he started a little bit participating in looking after this child. And she said, I can't believe that he would tell me, you can go for half an hour, I will sit. She said she doesn't get 1 minute free. He would say, 30 minutes, I'll give you a break. She said, for 30 minutes to go to the bathroom without tension, for me was such a blessing after 20 years. Because she would wait for this little girl from our school to come home and say, you sit with Anna, with your brother, I'll go to bathroom. Now she said, then he started participating in feeding and just stroking the child's hand, and then telling the wife that, you must be so tired, why don't you take a break? She said her entire life turned and improved because her husband who I told you never participated or spoke, he was in such a deep depression. He used to think he's just sitting there like a body. He's just a head count. But he was absorbing the program. So when he went back, the transformational effect it had on him made him realize what a tough life his wife and child had and how he was failing both as a husband and as a father. It was his defense mechanism to withdraw in his cocoon, but he had to come out. So that is the power of realizing what responsibility God has given us when He has blessed us with these beautiful children. You've been very patient and attentive. I thank you. And have a great day ahead.